Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome back to another video for EVE Online. Today we're going to be revisiting one of the Tech 2 heavy assault cruisers, this time around the Amarr Empire's Zealot. Now, the first time around I enjoyed flying the Zealot, despite the fact that it's an Amarrian vessel that uses energy turrets. Yeah, I could hide the bone and gold colour scheme, and energy turrets aren't the worst. They're not my favourite by a long shot, but they have their uses, and the Zealot was a lot of fun to fly. But I was trying to look at all 9 of the heavy assault cruisers and see if you could get one fit that would run all 4 combat sites comfortably. And I just couldn't get the Zealots to do that, and we'll talk about why in just a moment. However, Naku Esheri, the guy who's been helping with the Navy issue fits that you've seen recently to really get started with C3 ratting in very cheap ships, suggested a Zealot fit that actually seems to have fixed a lot of the problems that I had with the vessel. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at in today's video. Now let's start off just by having a quick look at the Zealot's traits page, because this is where I found the Zealot kind of falls down, and it does explain the issues I have with the ship, just based on its innate characteristics. If we look at the bonuses that the Zealot gets, you'll see that it gets damage and rate of fire, so very nice DPS increases there. It gets optimal range bonuses, and it even gets an activation cost reduction as well, meaning it's got good damage, good rate of fire to increase the DPS. The activation cost reduces the amount of energy, capacitor energy that would actually require to operate, therefore helping keep the ship stable despite that rate of fire increase. And it has an optimal range bonus, which means you can hit from better distances. What it lacks, however, notably, is any form of tanking upgrade there. There's no armor amount, armor resistance amount, armor repairer amount, that kind of thing. Nothing that helps with the Zealot's survivability. This means that the Zealot innately becomes kind of a glass cannon. It's very good at dealing damage. It's just not particularly good at taking that damage back. So, that was the issue that I found personally with the Zealot as well, that when I took it out into all of the C3 combat sites, it would do the easier ones just fine. It could shoot things quick enough to survive a lot of those sites. But things like the Outpost Frontier Stronghold, that final wave, the Zealot just couldn't handle it. There was just not enough tank kit, and it struggled in some of those heavier waves as well. Even the third wave of the Fortification Frontier Stronghold, you had to be careful how you flew this, or you could lose it very, very quickly due to that glass cannon nature. This is the fit, however, that Naku has suggested, and I've taken this out and I've tested it in all 4 of the combat sites, and it works. It works beautifully. So well done, Naku. You've shown me up again and proved that actually, yeah, you can make some of these things work, even if Benzie says you can't. So what is the fit? Well, I'm going to drop this down into the description below. If I do forget, please politely remind me, so that you can copy it into Python, into game, and see how this would work for you. Again, do feel free to modify the fit if you think there's anything that could be improved or changed. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. So we are running heavy pulse laser 2s in the high slots. This gives us the shorter range, higher damage version of the energy turrets. We don't need the long range ones, and would rather go for the damage thanks to the bonuses that the Zealot gets. You can see that even with Conflagration, we are getting 12 kilometers optimal, 18 to full off, which is really good for energy turrets. And if we swap that to Scorch, we're actually getting like 33 kilometers out of this, which is just brilliant for shooting things like awakened upholders that like to keep range. And you're going to getting good DPS out of this. Conflagration M is giving us 601.5 effective hit points. That's a lot of damage coming out of this. Only 55.4 of which is the drones. And we'll talk more about that later. Going into the mid-slots, we've got a Republic Fleet large cap battery and a Republic Fleet medium cap battery just to help add a bit of capacitor stability to this. It is obviously an energy turret ship, so it uses a lot of capacitor just to fire its own weapons, but this also isn't the full story. Yes, at the moment with those 2 plugged in, we're getting 5.1 gigajoules per second of delta with everything active. However, if we're looking down at the armor tank, you'll see that we have 2 medium armor repairer 2s. And actually, if we switch one of those off, we're at 23 gigajoules per second of delta, which means we can just cycle one of the armor repairers if we start taking a lot of capacitor neutralization. We've also got a 10 meganewton Afterburner II here, which allows us to go all the way up to 640.5 meters per second of flight velocity. That, combined with 125 meters of signature radius, means we are actually capable of avoiding a lot of incoming damage. And our resistances, this is a little bit misleading, and I'll explain why in a moment, but we're looking at 58 up to a whopping 83% on our resistance profile here. Why is that misleading? Because we're using a reactive armor hardener. Oh, but Benzi, don't sleepers do omni damage? No, they don't. They do electromagnetic and thermal turrets and explosive and kinetic missiles. You will always find that a ship is taking more damage from one or the other. In this case, the turrets are the ones that are most likely to be hitting us for the big damage. So you can see we have stacked up thermal energized membranes into the low slots here. And this means that that reactive armor hardener will push up that electromagnetic resistance very, very quickly. Meaning that that 58% is before anything gets going. And you'll find very quickly electromagnetic, that hole is plugged and you're taking very little damage. We then have a heatsink 2 and a reactor control unit 2 because we need a little bit more power grid in order to fit everything in here. Our rigs are both medium auxiliary nanopump 2s just to help with that armor tank. Now you do have 25 megabits per second of drone bandwidth here alongside a 50 cubic meter drone bay. Now, you can just go for light drones here, which is what I've done, something like your standard acolytes, just for a little bit of additional DPS against a target, or you could go for a single heavy web of fire drone or heavy target painter drone if you think that that application would assist you just a bit more. And that's certainly a viable option. I just kept things cheap and simple, and I go with the additional bit of damage. Anyway, let's jump ahead and showcase this in action. So here we're coming into the third wave of the Fortification Frontier Stronghold, and I mentioned that the Zealot does actually struggle with this in the previous fit that I was using. Here you can see we are holding just fine. We are quite comfortably pulling down that Preserver very quickly and efficiently early on, then going after the Awakened Upholder. Our Capacitor is holding, our tank is holding, it's working really, really nicely. Now, did you know that 70% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed? Well, yeah. Apparently that's true according to my YouTube analytics, so if you're watching this and thinking, oh, I'm quite enjoying these videos, hit that darn subscribe button, ring the bell, and make sure you get notified on when more of my videos are being released. It really helps out, and it does also teach YouTube to start promoting my content to other people, as does hitting like and dropping a comment both down below. I also love talking to you guys. So anyway, there you can see that Upholder has gone down. We're now orbiting the battleship. And at this point in time, we're not even really getting hit by anything. The tank is just taking nothing at all. I could probably turn off that second armor repairer, continue that orbit, and just rip apart this Sleepless Upholder quite quickly. You'll see those beam lasers, pulse lasers, are doing real damage on that Sleepless Upholder. These things have a decent whack of effective hit points, and yet we're cutting through it quite comfortably. You see, I personally may not like the I personally may not like energy turrets all that much. It's just a personal preference due to the sound that they make and the fact that they are locked into a single damage type. I prefer autocannons and hams because I like the damage type selection and I like the sort of the sounds and the visuals of that. That's literally all it is. Because energy turrets have really good optimal range. They have really good reload speed for starters, and you don't need to carry tons of ammunition due to how crystals work in regards. So I get it. Energy turrets are a great system, and the fact that ultimately sleepers are omni-tanked means your damage type selection doesn't actually matter all that much, you know? You can go in here with just electromagnetic and thermal damage, and it's got the same amount of resistance as something like explosive or kinetic would, so you don't have to worry about that. So energy turrets definitely do have a usage here, and yeah, look at that. We're having no difficulties at all. And this does extend out into the Outpost Frontier Stronghold, even the third and final wave of that, taking so little damage from those final battleships. Even when you're like slower to move, it works. It works. We've made the Zealot work, or rather Naku Esheri has made the Zealot work. And does that mean that it changes my ranking in that video? Yes. Yes, it does, and I'm going to need to go back and redo my ranking of the 9 heavy assault cruisers, aren't I? Because the Zealot is now going to have a different position. Off the top of my head, I can't remember where the other ones were. I think I put it slightly below the Eagle, because the Eagle at least could clear all 4 sites, whereas the Zealot couldn't. This would now therefore be above the Eagle. Is it going to be above the Deimos? It might be. It's a bit more expensive though. I'd need to think about it and actually figure that out. But again, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on that ranking video, right? And if you do want to go the extra mile to help support content like this, please do take a brief moment to head across to my Patreon page or my PayPal tip jar and drop in a small donation if you want to. That would mean the world to me. Anyway, that's all for today's video, folks. Hopefully that has showcased that, in fact, the Zealot is a really good ship, and you can use it for C3 wormhole ratting, where it will clear all 4 sites. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.